Hello, my name is Patrick Crossman, and I just crashed my program. Not really sure why that happened, but it's all good. I'm going to talk today about BrainSwarm. It's an idea I came up with, and it's the mind mapping application that listens to your ideas. First off, I'm going to talk about how much it'll cost. Why? Because it's the least interesting part of my presentation, and it's not going to cost that much. Basically, you got to pay a team of 3 developers for at most a year to develop a Brainstorm listener that creates diagrams in real time. After it's made, you'll be able to sell it for $5,000 per corporate license to any of these clients. These clients have 3 things in common. One, they work in teams. 2, they create diagrams. And 3, in some way or another, they're creative. Now, has anybody, this is a public question, ever been part of a creative team? My experience was at the Great Canadian Apathon. It's a 48-hour event, and you're given a theme, and you're tasked to create a game for a mobile device. Basically, it's pretty much all there is to it, and it's really frantic. My team and I started out brainstorming, and we talked for about 3 hours. I was the note taker. I tried to capture everybody's ideas. Now, we talked, and after enough talking and taking notes, we kind of had a good idea about what it is that we wanted to make. And at that point, I started making some sketches. I drew game state diagrams, player state diagrams, and flowcharts. And after our information that we collected was organized enough, for it to make sense, I opened up Visio and I made some diagrams, some nice flowcharts. And once the flowcharts were made, we could start coding. But there were a lot of great ideas from the brainstorm session that didn't make it into the diagrams, so they never got coded. They never made their way into the game either. Why? Because, well, I didn't write those ideas down. I didn't have time to. I didn't understand some of them. They might have been good ideas, but they didn't make their way into the game, and that sucks. That's kind of the way all brainstorm sessions go. You got a group of people talking about a common idea, trying to come up with as many relevant ideas as possible. And then you got some poor schmuck in the background trying to frantically write them all down. And you know what? You can't create diagrams in real time. You can't. You have to know what you want to do with a tool before you can use that tool. You can't use a hammer until you know where you want to put the nail. And that's the problem I want to solve with BrainSwarm. I want to let creative people focus on creating ideas, not diagrams. So this is what I think BrainSwarm might look like. On the left, you start a new session, or you load an old one. Now, after that, you pick what kind of template for what kind of diagram you want to make. Minutes, or a mind map, ERD, class. And from there, you select a team. You also add any relevant team members, maybe new ones. Now, I imagine that all team members and roles would be stored in some sort of database, and you could call them. BrainSwarm would kind of know who does what. And after that point, you'd push the swarm button down here, and that would start a new session. Just like any meeting or discussion, the leader would start talking. The leader would tell the team the goals of the presentation, or the discussion, sorry. And from there, BrainSwarm would try its best to make a diagram related to those goals. Now, team members, perhaps, if they wanted to be prepared beforehand, could create assets, visual aids, and other things, and upload them to a repository beforehand. And that's that. I imagine after this screen, most of Brainstorm would be controlled via voice commands. I've got a paper which actually outlines more of the functionality and features of the program, but I don't really want to go too into it for this presentation. So it does sound pretty cool, and it sounds kind of impossible. Wow, that'd be so convenient. That's never going to happen. But, you know, if you think about model view controller architecture and software, it separates the logic and storage from presentation. So Jeff Atwood, shout out to Jeff Atwood because he's awesome. He wrote a really great article on his website called Understanding MVC. And basically, the question he asks is your app skinnable? So if you can swap out your style sheet and get a new look, you got a skinnable app. You've got an MVC app. And at a higher level, I think Brainswarm would have to make use of model view controller architecture. Basically, its backbone's only going to be focused on storing, presenting information. The template that you select for the diagram would serve as a view. So I think this is possible. Voice recognition software, open source voice recognition APIs exist, and repositories are very common, like Git and Dropbox. You know, this is totally achievable. You just got to pay, me or a few other developers to make it. So, in conclusion, humans suck at collecting and organizing data. Computers are really, really good at that. They're made to do that. But, like I said, people aren't. So, why don't we let creative people do what they're supposed to do and not what they're not good at? Let creative people focus on creating ideas, not diagrams. Thanks for listening. Any questions? Yeah! Yeah! I got lots of questions! You can contact me at patrickcrossman.com. It's my website. Alright. Thanks again.